Okay, so next up we have Malte Brunnlieb from Capgemini. His paper was about XML language-aware aggregation or merging. So yes, please take it away.
Thanks, Charles. So just about myself, because I'm first time at an XML London conference. I'm not only from Capgemini, I'm a part-time worker at Capgemini, but I'm also a PhD student at the University of Kaiserslautern. And this part of my work is especially driven by my PhD, but essentially we are facing this in the company and get struggling a little bit with problems of two-way merging of XML documents. And let's talk a little bit about the context when it works. The context of our vision of merging documents in a two-way fashion. We have the context of code generation. So what we are currently doing is we generate code due to strong naming and code conventions and try to integrate this generated, possibly XML code, into already existing files. So the idea behind this is that you have a tooling giving you, based on some architecture, generation facets and giving you some generation possibilities, but the code afterwards should be aligned directly as implemented manually. And on top of this, the generated code should be second-class code. So when the developer changes code, after regeneration of some facets of some code snippet, it should not override the custom code. So this is basically the context. So putting this into two-way merges, then we have to discuss, are the two documents of equal semantics or do they have different? And in our sense, because we generate a patch we want to apply on some already existing document, we have some semantics. So we have a base document and we have a patch document. However, the patch document does not have any metadata about deletions, removal, deletions, insertions, and so on. It's just an XML document, and it should be integrated. So therefore, we have two two documents of the equal language we want to integrate. Yes. So let's speak about some examples. I hope it's readable. Is it? Yeah. Okay. So in Java development, I'm currently in, there were the Spring framework, which in the previous version and not the current, had lots of configuration done in XML. So you have to have some bean declarations for each class, which should be interconnected by the Spring component framework. And such bean declaration might look like this. You have here we have two beans, bean 1 and bean 2, and bean 1 has a property, so it in a dependency to bean 2. And what we now generate, possibly, we generate a patch, so basically a document which might be a full-featured document. So when there is no base document already in place, it will just deploy this code as the new file in place. However, if there's a base, we want to integrate this new document, the essential parts of this document, into the base. And what's going on here in the patch is there's also a bean1, and the bean1 gets a dependency to a bean3, which is not available in the base, but declared in the patch. So integrating this, we want to have something like this. We want to adapt the bean1 declaration by adding a new dependency, bean3, and put the bean3 declaration especially beyond this. So there's some aggregation going on, some accumulation. However, this is kind of easy example because we do have some notion of equality here with the ID attribute, which is already provided by the XML meta language, so fine. Let's look into a more complex example. We again have bean declaration, and now we start to have, we want to integrate by the patch inheritance relation for the beans. So there is a new bean 3 declared, and bean 1 should now inherit the bean 3. Basically, we want to have this integrated because in the base there's already a bean 1, so we can integrate and merge these documents. But what if we do not have some kind of easy notion of equality? If we accumulate 2 documents, we will stick on every node. We have to decide whether we should go deeper, should accumulate the children, and so on. So I think this is a very nice example what should be available to face different semantics of a language. And here we have, for example, an XHTML document, so a table of groups and their attendees. And now currently we have one in each group, 1 and 2, we have one attendee. And we want to add a new attendee to the first group. So this might be a patch to be able to integrate this new attendee and this is just semantics of the document currently, by detecting the quality of the table by the headers. So the semantics here are, if the headers of the table are the same, the content should be the same. And then we have in mind some more semantics. So there's an identifier for each row. However, it's distributed over the whole document. It's not easily tackable by a generic merge algorithm trying to accumulate or aggregate these documents based on the XML meta language. We like to have this result. However, you might easily see that this might get into trouble because these are unstructured data. However, you can easily imagine to have there an unsorted list and have structured data again. But what is the problem in detail? So the problem is that looking at the internet, searching for accumulators, aggregators, you will easily see that most of them working on the XML meta language. And therefore, they treat every document the same. They accumulate nodes, they accumulate children attributes based on some heuristic. They might be configurable, so there are tools which are configurable, but they are not language dependent. If you want to point to a new language, have a document with different languages separated by namespace, you get directly into trouble. And therefore, we have this challenge to really try to express the notion of equality of each node. This is one essential point here, and provide a language-specific control over the aggregation. So depending on which language we're currently facing, or which semantics of the document especially, we may want to have different aggregation algorithms. And what we already know about the languages provided are the document definition or a schema. So we got some kind of syntactical information from these documents, but you will not get semantic details of these documents. And this is what we are missing for having very good results after aggregation of documents. So we started to create a merge schema, and there was the work of Tufte and Meyer, maybe some of you know, which has some merge schema also. But they covered the merge schema in a stream facet, and we already have two documents we can directly try to merge. And let's have a small example. So the idea is to have the equality of the notion of equality also expressed by XPath expressions, which is mainly similar to what Tufte and Meyer did. And let's talk about a very small language with a root and a number of children. And providing merge schema might look like this. So this is especially our syntax now, to show or to define that the equality of a child is based on the criteria of the attribute ID. So comparing two children, you will compare the ID values, and if they are equal, both nodes will match of the two documents, and then further processing might go on. Looking at our complex example now for table, where we had a lot of semantics in it, we want to merge the G Raymond into this row to be added to the first group. And therefore, we can have this merge schema. We can have a handling. So this is the pointer what we are currently interested in. So we want to have, for the table, we have an equality notion of the set of headers. So this is basically the XPath for describing the set of header values. And for the row, we now want to have the equality notion based on the first column text. And therefore we get the notion of finding the correct table where the same header are in place, finding the correct row to be merged, and if this is done, then there's some additional stuff like this handling for TD. Here, this attachable text is just syntax. It's about how to align this text because, or how to resolve the conflict, because if this row matches and by the first column 1, you will observe a conflict here because mainly there is no conflict resolution in place, and this attachable text just says, okay, you can attach the text and it will result in something like this. And here you see, basically there's some problems if you work on unstructured texts, and this is mainly also not resolved by our library. But I hope the idea gets a little bit clear what will be addressed and what's possible. One short comment about the nesting here. So the nesting of handlings provide you a very good opportunity to have different contexts of the elements and describe different behaviors and different handlings and different equality of nodes for different nestings of your language. So this was basically a very rough introduction into the merge schema. And what does this mean? How is this related to language awareness? So what we try to do with these merge schemas is we provide some more information about a language. So a namespace is an identifier for a language, for an XML-based language, and we provide a merge schema with enriching or more or less making semantics more explicit, like the notion of equality. And so we can have, for example, two languages here. And we can, for each language, we can have a merge schema. And the merge schemas are then connected to some namespace. And here, for example, we have the same as before. So we identify the child over an ID. And here we identify the child every time because there can only be just one child. So we have different behavior, but same node names. And now we might have something like this, which is quite common in practice. If you have a look at different configuration languages, we had also seen this in document handling. So there are thousands of languages nested possibly, and normally you want to provide different semantics on the merge, on the aggregation. And this can now be done by providing the different merge schemas and processing this. And you might come into some result like this. For the first language, we can accumulate the children, as stated before. And for the language 2, we cannot, because we have a conflict here, as the children directly match, and now you get some unresolved conflict. However, we have an automatic approach which will not bother you with this, but therefore we introduce this patch and base notion, because then you can easily start your merge by having a very basic conflict resolution like base first or patch first, or there might be even more advanced stuff about this. Yeah. So basically what we have done is we created a declarative XML document which enables you to provide further information for different languages based on the namespace. So this is the connection to the language. And based on this language, we can directly influence any accumulation and aggregation of two documents in a two-way merging. Different to data XML, for example, is that we do not have an intermediate file covering all the data of our two documents. And therefore we have also no knowledge about what might be deleted, so we do not have any relation between the documents. It's just about conflict resolution, why we talk about base and patch. We have some kind of assuring compliance, but this is especially also future work. So what we have in place is we assure the XSD compliance on the result afterwards. However, as we have seen in the documents before, here are some redundant information which might be also be interesting to directly get from the document definition. Like, for example, here it's stated that there can only be one child. So why specifying this again here? And this is some kind of overhead which is in place but might be resolved later on. Yeah. So what's also not covered until now because of this redundancy is that in XSD on the syntactical point you have a much larger expressiveness because you can have very precise cardinalities of your children. And in our merge schema it's currently not the case, but we do not want to extend this because we want to have the XSD in place directly during the merge. So this is basically a shift of efforts and we want to go with the standards. Furthermore, as I said previously, compared to data XML, for example, especially in the context, we are talking about generating new code and trying to integrate this code directly into some existing code base and some existing XML files. then it's not possible to have any deletions. On which information should we do this? So therefore, this whole merge is currently based on aggregation and accumulation. There is no notion of deletions. Okay, so in time.
I know this is the barrier between you and lunch, but any questions for Malte?
Have you tried mixed content?
Mixed context.
Mixed content.
Mixed content, yes, we have. So we had done a lot of heuristics in this because of you want to merge, for example, HTML or XHTML, and we have an algorithm in place trying to align the code later on exactly how it was before. So we try to have be the nearest to the base document. However, this is not a trivial problem, definitely.
Yeah, I was just wondering, have you been, well, working on the merge scheme and everything, have you been, have you seen the XML merge in XML3 or worked with it or tried? Because a lot of things that you've said, I think, can be done directly with XML3 and XML merge. Possibly in addition with the configuration that you've created.
Mm-hmm.
With the validation that you're going to do at the end, using XML merge in combination with what you already have, you may get the direct validation on the nodes you're working with.
Yeah, that's a good hint. So I didn't, or I haven't had a look into XSL3 so far. So maybe it's a good pointer. However, what's quite interesting is that there were some languages which do not have a schema, like Hibernate configuration or a mmapper. And therefore, might be some problematic in this direction in general.
Yeah, you don't have to have a schema.
Okay, yeah, then.
But if you have a schema, you can use
yeah,
it.
yeah, then it might be true, yes.
And it's not limited to 2 ways. You
Yeah.
can have any number of inputs.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Thanks.
This piece of software, it's open source?
Yeah. As you asked also, so we try to make it open source, and it's since I think yesterday it's open source. You can find it on GitHub, and it's released on Maven Central. So it's a Java implementation. It's a library you can use. We had done a lot of documentation, so feel free to try it.
Sounds good. Okay. Thank you, Malte.